So hey guys, welcome to another Warframe video, and today I want to talk a little bit about my glass tank setup for Gara Prime, because I feel like there are too many people that underestimate Gara, even though she's one of the most busted frames in the game. Gara, in the right hands and with the right setup, can do effectively infinite damage, because if you know what you're doing and you have the right setup, you can scale your damage faster than the enemies scale their defense. And it gets absolutely ridiculous. You can easily do millions of damage while being completely indestructible. But how do we do that? Well, here's the setup for Gara. The one I'm using specifically is using 3 Forma, where you add 2 dashes and you change one of the base V's into a D. And you basically want to build into a little bit of everything. Now for the aura, I do actually like running rejuvenation. It matches the base polarity that comes with Gara Prime, but having some health regen is actually super nice, because while you're very tanky, you're still taking chip damage. And if you don't have any healing whatsoever, you are eventually going to die to it. Okay, then we're gonna go with Primed Continuity and Augur Message for duration. This is mainly for Splinter Storm, so we don't have to reset it as often and we don't have to use as much energy for that. Then we're gonna put on Adaptation, which in combination with the damage reduction we get from Splinter Storm, which is 90%, is gonna make you pretty much indestructible even in high level content. And we're gonna follow that up with Umbro Vitality for the health and Umbro Intensify for the strength. Now for the Exiles, I run Power Drift mainly because I like that a little bit of extra power strength. It helps with the damage scaling a little bit, but I also like the 30% chance to resist knockdown, though if you would rather be completely knockdown immune, you can add some extra Forma and run Prime Sure-Footed instead. Or if you would want a cheaper alternative, you can just run Handspring. After that, we're gonna put on Streamline just to make our combo a little bit cheaper through the efficiency, otherwise it's way too expensive, and we're gonna top it all off with Augur Reach and Stretch for some range. Now the reason you want some range, and I tend to go with a little bit more range rather than less, is twofold. Number one, you don't want to have to French kiss the enemies to actually do damage with Splinter Storm. And number two, if you get enough range, the Splinter Storm will actually envelop your Sentinel and give it the 90% damage reduction as well, which when combined with Rejuvenation makes your Sentinel very tough. Another thing I would recommend to run with this build is actually the Mitre. This is a primary Soul Blade launcher, and you can just run a basic build on this. You don't have to invest into it at all. The one thing you want to run here though is Neutralizing Justice. This is an augment for the Mitre, which gives it a 90% chance to instantly destroy a Nullifier bubble. And this is amazing because Nullifiers are like the one thing that can shut this build down instantly. And finally, we have the stat stick, because Shattered Lash is affected by the mods on your melee weapon, and this is very important because it is going to drastically increase the damage you can get out of this setup. But you don't just want to use any mods, there are only specific mods that will affect it. So generic damage, so Primed Pressure Point and Spoiled Strike will affect it. Then, depending on which version of Shattered Lash you're using, you either want to go with Puncture Damage or Slash Damage. We're going to be using the Puncture version, so we go with Sundering Strike and Rending Strike. And we're going to top it off with 4 90% Elemental mods in whatever combination. You just want to get the damage there. Because we're not actually going to be using the melee weapon itself, we're just using it to get mods for Shattered Lash. Now the way you play with this build is fairly straightforward. First you want to cast Splinter Storm, and you want to make sure that you cast it on yourself and not something else, which will envelop you in glass, provide you with massive damage reduction, and do a little bit of damage to any enemy that comes into contact with Splinter Storm, and the amount of damage it will do is indicated at the bottom right corner of the screen above your ammo. Once your Splinter Storm starts running out, what you're going to do is cast Mass Vitrify, which will create a glass wall but also reset the duration on your Splinter Storm, and this is how we're going to keep it up. And finally, you're going to run out of the glass barrier, and while standing next to it, you are going to cast Shattered Lash towards it, which will detonate it and add the detonation damage to your Splinter Storm. And this is what you're going to do over and over and over and over again. So once again, Splinter Storm is running out, boop, Mass Vitrify, run out, Shattered Lash, bam. Now we're doing 35.7 thousand damage to every enemy that touches our Splinter Storm. And this stacks very fast. In the footage you're watching right now, I've been in a Steel Part survival for about 9 minutes, and without necessarily trying to stack my Splinter Storm, I just reset it when it's running out, I am currently doing 530,000 damage to all enemies near me. And it's basically passive damage. All you need to do is make sure your Splinter Storm doesn't run out, which is really not all that difficult. You can sustain it indefinitely with just Zenuric, because we have a decent amount of duration, so Splinter Storm lasts about 40 seconds, and we have some efficiency, so the combo isn't all that expensive. And if a Nullifier shows up, which is the biggest problem for this build, you just pop its bubble with a Mitre, run in and let the Splinter Storm do its thing. Or alternatively, if you don't have the Mitre or you don't have the augment, you just get a fast firing weapon weapon, so any automatic rifle which will shred through the bubble fast. And that's pretty much it. Now, one thing to bear in mind here, and this is mostly for people that have Rivens for stat sticks, which work if you have the right stats on the Riven, is the type of damage you put on your melee weapon determines which Shattered Lash type you're gonna use. If you have a Riven with a lot of puncture damage, you just want to tap Shattered Lash so you get the spike which does puncture damage, but if you have a ton of slash damage on your Riven, you want to mod your melee weapon for slash instead of puncture, but then you need to hold Shattered Lash down to do the swiping motion which does slash. But once again, that's only if you have a Riven. Other than that, it's generally better to mod for puncture and just tap Shattered Lash instead of holding it down. And the melee weapon you use doesn't really matter, you just want to make sure that you have the right mods, though melee weapons with high Riven dispositions are of course better because the Rivens are gonna have more stats. So yeah, here we have an Acolyte, so you can see how much damage this actually does, and this is just 618,000. You can easily go way above 1,000,000, and in that case the Acolyte just melts in seconds. And that's pretty much it for the video, so I thank you very much for watching as always, guys. I hope you will give this setup a shot. It is really strong, and yeah, I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.